that you will never regret having worked to send your humble servant, Shirley Chisholm, to fight for you on the national level. Because I recognize how I came and from whence I came.
The daughter of Caribbean immigrants, her words on the eve of her greatest political victory after the votes were counted on November 5th, 1968. Shirley Anita Chisholm became the first black woman ever elected to Congress. 4 years later, Chisholm once again raising her clenched fist towards the political establishment and swinging the other towards the Nixon White House.
I stand before you today as a candidate for the Democratic nomination for the presidency of the United States of America. Leadership does not mean putting the ear to the ground to follow public opinion, but to have the vision of what is necessary and the courage to make it possible.
And the courage to make it possible was as strong a statement as her campaign mantra, unbought and unbossed.
What attracted me was it was unusual for a woman to be able to hold her own, even against misogynist black politicians at the time in Brooklyn.
An impressed 18-year-old signed on as her National Youth Campaign Director. Already known nationally as the boy preacher, his name was Al Sharpton, and he remembers a campaign not well received even by fellow black Americans.
And she would discuss it very open. At the nerve of them to talk to me like that. Women have to deal with racism and sexism, Alfred. She used to call me Alfred my whole name.
I had taken in the idea that as a black person, we would never be president, at least not in my lifetime. As a black woman, that I couldn't be seen as president, not in my lifetime.
Shala Lynch was a college student when she first read about Chisholm's audacious run for the presidency. Lynch is now curator of the Schomburg Center's Moving Image and Recorded Sound Division. Her own 2005 film, Chisholm 72, Unbought and Unbossed, was an award-winning look at Chisholm's 1972 run.
You know, Walter Cronkite, when he announced that she was running for president, said, "A hat up." Noah Bonnet has been tossed into the presidential ring today. That of Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm. It was a joke.
This is the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite.
A new hat, rather a bonnet, was tossed into the Democratic presidential race today. That of Mrs. Shirley Chisholm, the first black woman to serve in Congress.
Lynch says Chisholm knew she would likely lose, but in fighting for delegate strength before the convention, her focus was literally on empowerment of the people.
It wasn't a matter of moral right. You know, you should support women's rights and you should support racial equality, etc. She was like, no, I have delegates. You want my delegates? This is what I need. Now that is a woman who understands power. But we didn't see that.
Her approach to politics was really trying to address policy needs to the most marginalized and disenfranchised people.
Dr. Zinga Fraser is director of the Shirley Chisholm Project at Brooklyn College. She says, understand Chisholm, and you understand what it truly takes to be a leader.
That government isn't just about, those who are on leadership, but really government is about the ways in which that leadership meets the needs of the people.
Well, I think, first of all, she was such a trailblazer. She has become iconic over time.
Trailblazing runs in Congresswoman Yvette Clarke's DNA. Her mother, Una, was the first Caribbean-born woman elected to the New York City Council in 1992. Her biggest endorsement? From her friend and colleague, Shirley Chisholm. Now, Yvette Clarke represents a portion of Chisholm's Brooklyn district in Congress. Chisholm blazing the trail for her back in 1968. And she says the fights Chisholm took on are still worth fighting.
She was working with the least of these, and her persona made them believe that she understood what they were living with and living through, and that she, understanding that, will fight for them.
And she was not afraid to fight for a seat at the table.
I felt that the time had come when a black person or a female person could and should be
president of these United States of America, not only white males. And I decided somebody had to get it started.
Now, in that one of the last interviews Shirley Chisholm did before her death in 2005, she said she wanted to be remembered as a woman who dared to be a catalyst of change. And one of my favorite quotes from Mrs. C, as though who remembered her called her, was, "If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair." And a fun fact, when she was assigned to the House Agriculture Committee, despite being from New York City, she said, apparently all they know here in Washington about Brooklyn is that a tree grew there. President Barack Obama told that story in 2015 when he awarded Chisolm the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously.